Hello, people of the earth, and welcome to QuickSaveFM, podcast number 2, with me, Mike Pushkin, and our dear guest, the Coffeeholic 93, or also Mike. But this Mike is from Denmark, not connected in any way to Russia or Greece. And today we're going to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and Mike, introduce yourself.
Hello once again. And how come you're sure we're not related? There could be may have a common ancestor somewhere
Yeah,
up the line.
that's always possible if, there was a sabotage in the process. But I just hope that there's no sabotage. Since you're from the northern country, everything should be fine. I hope, anyway.
Would be kind of awkward. Oh, hello, my distant cousin.
Yeah, like, what the hell? Especially if this cousin is a girl and you're like, you are made the mistake of your life and you're like, oh my goodness, sister, why did you have to be so hot? Today we're going to discuss the hardcore and casual gamers and generally the approach to the game, difficulty in games, and how different game authors, the developers, try to treat it. We next going to discuss pay to play and free to play types of games. Specifically, the massively multiplayer online games. Majority of them use one of this, either of those. Other games not so much, but some of them do. Tribes Ascend is a good example. Then we have the single-player games and how the experience changes online. Specifically, not just about the connecting with other players and interacting with them, but also the game balance and specific gameplay mechanics. How do they actually work? How do they change? And what the hell to do about it? And on the 4th, we have an interesting video discussion, which I'm not going to specify, so that you watch till the end. Now we got you. We're going to begin with the hardcore and casual, and I will go ahead and just give you the word, Mike.
Yeah, it's basically the way that the video games are becoming more mainstream. There has been an evolution in casual games as well. Games for the casual audience and for children as well. It's easier to see with a Nintendo or those guys. I can't remember the name of the company right now, but they made game like Plants vs Zombies or Peggle. You know those games. PopCap. PopCap,
yes,
that's
exactly.
the name.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The under EA.
yeah. Except that these make good games, but they do release the same game over and over and over again.
Oh
well.
It sucks to be you right now.
The point is, with this distinction, there's also been a lot of hate from the hardcore gamers about how these casual games are ruining the industry because these games are easier, they're more accessible, and here I sit, well, sure, some of them are, but most of them, and are they really ruining the industry? That's basically what I want to talk about, because I don't believe it myself, so I believe it would be an interesting topic.
Interesting question raised there. Well, to people who actually feel this way and think that the industry will be ruined because there's going to be a huge influx in the casual players, I would like to make an example. About more than 12 years ago, when the StarCraft 1 came out, and later on, as the years progressed, it became a cyber sports discipline. It became one of the most successful and one of the first real, powerful, strategic cyber sports disciplines. Later on, it came Warcraft 3, but before that, there was StarCraft, and again, it attracted different communities. And in StarCraft 1, before it became this, uber skill-based game, holy shit, you have to know so many strategies, and you have to know all the build-ups, and you have to know what the enemy can do in any specific point in time, there was the following playstyle. Everyone would just play with a mouse and do something random with his left hand or right hand, depending on what's your primary hand. People would literally play only with mouse. They would not use any hotkeys. They would even move around the screen with the mouse. That's how I played. That's how many people played. Nobody used it. My most advanced feat with the keyboard was when I found out about control groups. And boy, when I found out about control groups, I felt like a god. I was like, there's my friends. They don't even know about control groups. But I can actually specify 10 control groups and have up to 12 units in each of them, and I would be like, oh my goodness, I have a competitive advantage. I am so competitive. And that was about it. That was the knowledge. I didn't use the hotkeys to build things. I used the mouse, right? And that's how people played, and that was considered norma. That was considered nice, and like it was proper way to play the games. Now, although we say that there's a lot of casual players coming in. Today's standards are different, and everybody knows that. Today, it is not normal to play in StarCraft 2 with only mouse. You will not survive even in the easiest league. You will be demolished, obliterated, and torn to pieces. You have to learn the keyboard, like from the start. That's your casual gaming. Now, if you compare the previous generation hardcore and today's casual is actually stronger.
Yeah.
And that's just funny.
Yeah,
Like,
but even if you look back in the days, the games were at the arcade, and in order for the game developers to make any kind of money, the game had to be hard, accessible, but hard, very, very, very hard. They had to focus on a few core mechanics like Mario. They had jumping and they had scrolling to the right. Most games adopted something that was similar to that, with the scrolling to the right because it was easy to program and well, it was a nice way to set the difficulty. So basically, the first few levels they were fairly easy. You know, you move to the right, you jump over the
yeah.
Goombas, you jump on the what the shell guys. I can't remember what their name is. Oh well.
The
But then
ducks,
later,
whatever.
yeah, as you progress, the game becomes harder and harder and harder. And if you're in the arcade and you get the game over, then you have to put in another coin. And in order to get to the last level, you either have to be extremely good to do it with one coin, or you just have to pay and pay and pay. But now you can pay for the game once with the home console systems, and then instead of focusing on difficulty, now developers they can play around a little more, maybe with engaging but not necessarily difficult combat because the life system is now obsolete. They could tell a story now that they actually have the processing power to handle it, which we talked about in the last episode. Hint, hint, go watch it. Hint, hint. But yeah, that's basically there's not this pressure to make the games as difficult as possible. I mean, we grew up with it, and so we are used to this community. So we may see games like Peggle or Plants vs Zombies being dumbed down instead of seeing them as accessible. You know, that's just how I see it.
I actually would. Well, let's go ahead. Since you gave two examples right now, Mario and Plants vs. Zombies. One of them is the side-scroller platformer, actually just platformer, and another one is strategy. It's kind of an RTS tower defense. It's a tower defense probably. Now, well, let's start with Mario. Mario was hard, but I don't think the developers actually wanted to make it hard. It just came out hard because it had puzzles, it had some very tough jumps. But if you look at battles with the Bowser, they weren't so difficult as such. They were accessible. You could actually do them, no problem. The difficult part was for some players, such as myself, because I'm not particularly smart person. I keep failing at those stupid puzzles, and I would just rage the game, throw the joystick around like, "Ugh."
of Armour Reckoning, they appeal to a wide audience and they are dumbed down from the quote-unquote hardcore games, but they are not damaging the community. That's basically the point I wanted to make.
In some cases they do, but yeah, well, overall, in the majority of the cases, if the designers' decisions are correct, no, they will not damage the community. If they just dump down the game without any reason and they have no real plan behind it, like what happened, for instance, in my opinion, what happened with World of Warcraft, what happens as we speak, and what happened with Kingdoms of Amalur. But with Kingdoms of Amalur, we have no point to compare to. Dragon Age 2. Another comparison. They dumped down the game without a real plan to it. I mean, they did simplify the mechanics, they did simplify the combat, but they did not achieve what they want. And it felt like, oh, guys, you kind of cut off those things, but you didn't really improve on the existing content and you didn't really expand. So it was kind of like cutting off, like, you know what? You have two kidneys, why don't you cut one of them? That was kind of such decision, not like, we should replace the arrangements of your organs so they fit more nicely. I mean, well, it again sounds brutal, but that's just what, that's what it is. It's like when you have a plate, better example, with food, everyone likes food. You have a plate, and you have macaroni, you have ketchup, you have sausages, okay? You want to arrange them nicely on your plate. And you kind of like, you start thinking, how should I put macaroni? Should I put them on top of sausages or below the sausages? When do I put ketchup and in what quantities? So that I don't touch my sausages with the ketchup. How do I put it on my small plate in order to get the most out of it? And when designer is smart, wise guy, a smart team of designers, they make it in such a way that you get more with the same space by spending less space. That's a good designer's decision. That's what we're saying about simplifying the game. The bad designer's decision is when I come to you in the kitchen, you're like, what are you doing, Mike? You're like, I'm just kind of trying, like, feed food better on my plate. I'm like, what are you, an idiot or something? I'm grabbing your plate. I throw half of the things out of it and I'm like, here, eat. Enjoy your meal.
Yeah, but well, that's the thing. When you try to appeal to a broad audience, then you have to make sure that your gameplay mechanics are engaging. And well, with Dragon Age 2, they kind of simplified the combo mechanics, and that were very engaging in the first game. But they were pretty much mage focused only. So that's one thing they did better in Dragon Age 2. That was that fact that there was cross-class combos with all of the different three. But other than that, the gameplay was quite easier than the original game. So yeah. The dumbing down didn't really work in favor of the game, especially with the recycled environments. So.
Don't say, good God.
That does not help with the longevity of a game.
Yeah, but it does simplify the stuff in a way, you could argue. Well, okay, let's go ahead to the next topic, and the next topic is the pay-to-play games versus free-to-play games. What is the core concept? What are these games all about? And how do we actually compare them? And what is the valid comparison? What can be made here? So essentially, we're going to talk mostly about MMO games, massively multiplayer online, with a rare exception. And the rare exception provided by the marvelous and absolutely amazing Tribes Ascend. Okay, Tribes Ascend is a free-to-play games with microtransaction systems, which is essentially not massively multiplayer online. It's just a competitive shooter. It's just another super hardcore competitive shooter with mechanics not present in any game. It's just, just another one. Yeah. Anyway, the thing is that what is your standpoint on this? On free-to-play versus pay-to-play? Like, pay-to-play we consider when you buy the game or get the game for free, but you also have to pay every month as you play the game, for instance.
Well, the thing is, there are pros and cons to each approach. With free-to-play games with microtransactions, then, well, you're playing a free game, and it's basically the community keeping it alive, as opposed to the developers. As the developers will still make take part in the development of the game, but it's free, it's more community-based. As opposed to a pay-to-play game, that's something on the other hand, they will have dedicated servers, so it's easier to host matches and there will be no server overload at all. That will happen in some cases when bad developers, EA. But for most part, if you look at Blizzard, they support millions of players, and as far as I know, there haven't been a whole lot of server crashes. It's like you sign in and then suddenly, everything crashed. There's no grinding anymore.
Imagine, right? Like, I paid for my game. You sons of bitches, fix right now.
And nerf all the other classes that I'm not playing because
Yeah,
they are overpowered.
That's probably the best point. Like in World of Warcraft, if you go to forum, the discussions generally, majority of the times are, oh my god, Shaman sucks, everybody else is overpowered. Or, oh my god, Paladin does not kill everything in 3 clicks, which it does. Nerf everything else. Or another thing, oh my god, my mage cannot handle someone in melee. Nerf everything else. Like, it's always the case. Buff me, nerf them. Buff me, nerf them. Constant back and forth. But the thing is, well, there are some games that actually host servers, free-to-play games. They do host servers. I mean, they have to because you essentially connect to their servers. But the thing is that they try to get this money the same, and sometimes they get even more money than the pay-to-play kind of games. A good example of such games, probably one of the best examples, the one I'm aware of at least, is Ragnarok. That's the South Korean game in which we have a lot of microtransactions and a lot of game mechanics which support microtransactions. For instance, you can marry in the game with another game character, and if you're married, you get a list of several benefits, right? You get a lot of benefits, and basically a lot of people marry in the game, then they marry in life, or etc., or they like vice versa. And what they often do, because in South Korea, this kind of games, and generally Japan, South Korea, this kind of games, they are, for many people, they form the social life of these people. Not necessarily that they sit in house all day playing, but they do take a consistent amount of time every day to play these games, to talk with these people. And what would happen is that people would just throw a lot of money on this wedding, and they would spend much more than on the average you would spend on the game if you would pay to play, like pay every month to play it, which is funny, right? The free to play actually brings more money than pay to play in some circumstances if that's set up correctly.
Yeah, but especially with games like Ragnarok with microtransactions, it can be very, very successful. But pay-to-play games are I guess you could say, the safer bet for a developer, because at least that way they'll assure that they're getting money. But if your free-to-play game doesn't take off, then you've invested a whole lot of money, and then you kind of have to explain that one to your boss. Or if you're an independent developer, you have to explain it to your bank. Like, guys, you see what happened was... Yeah, and then there's all your programmers like, why are you running off?
It always depends, right, on every case and every circumstance. But it depends again what future they envision for their game and how do they want to expand it. Like, for instance, great example of free-to-play games, truly a free-to-play games, as far as I'm concerned. I hope I didn't miss a point there because I didn't see anything suspicious yet. Tribes Ascend, right? You have microtransactions, but everything they offer, you can, except for experience boost, you can buy with in-game experience, which makes it not impossible to unlock all the things. I have actually a friend in Flesh and Blood that played Tribes Ascent enough to unlock all the things in the game, and he never spent a coin on it. So essentially, in this particular game, free-to-play concept of it is that everyone plays for free, but people who cannot play as much or cannot wait, they pay money to unlock stuff in the game so that they can enjoy the game, which is kind of logical because they can spend amount of money, like say 40 euros, right, and unlock all the things they wanted, and just enjoy the game, and it will count as if they actually bought the game. The rest of the players will just continue playing hardcore-ishly and try to unlock all these things themselves, except for the skins, I guess. The skins are unique and you have to pay for them. But, good lord, you can survive without it. I mean, oh my goodness, skins, how important.
But I can have a pink hat. It's much better than the green one.
Good lord, as if you're going to marry in this game. Come on, you're just going to play to kick some serious butt and go back in your real life. I mean, how much will you justify to spend on a game?
Yeah, this is something in the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. They have this unlock system which is entirely random. If you play the game, you'll get credits, and if you play in a higher difficulty, you'll get more credits, and then you buy packs to unlock weapons. Or you can buy some Bioware points, or you can get your weapons that way. So essentially, everything you can unlock by playing, you can unlock with money as well, which is a decent way to do it.
But, as long as they balance it properly. As long as they balance it.
Yeah, yeah, that is the thing with balancing. Um, Another thing I've seen, if any of you knows about Battle On or Adventure Quest, they have the it's not necessarily free.
Hey everyone, and sorry about this cut. We had to cut due to some technical difficulties, and now we're going back. Giving word back to Mike, he was talking about the differences of various online communities in the game, the way that is branded free to play, but also has payable element.
Yeah, it's the online game Adventure Quest Battle On. Essentially, if you play it free to play, then there is the server that you get signed into, and for the most part, for the first few days or few weeks, I can't quite remember since it's been years since I played it. But then you essentially play and you can sign in, no problem. But after that, well, they have servers they have to keep up. They have to perform maintenance to these servers. That costs money. So if you pay for free, you essentially have this chance when you just try to sign in, try to play the game. You can say, well, the server's full. Too bad. Then you get thrown to this page that is full of ads, so they earn money this way. Kind of sneaky by their part, you know.
Like you don't pay, but you're bombarded with advertisement as if you were watching TV. So
Yeah, and then you refresh that page, and then you try to sign in, and then there's 300 people too many online right now. So maybe if you refresh, there'll be less, or if you refresh, there'll be less, and then that way they earn a lot of money.
interesting.
Yeah, and then you can almost become a member, and then you can get around all of this problematic, or you can be as me, and you can live in a different time zone than they do in America, and you can be like, ha, no one's online at this time, at this hour.
Okay, yeah, but then again, you would have a horrible lag, wouldn't you?
Not necessarily, because they have several servers worldwide apparently. Because there's no lag, since it's not a PvP game. It's basically an RPG of sorts, and then you basically just play it.
I see.
Yeah, and it's just online.
Well, in any online game, there will be a lag element to it. Depends, of course, how they set it up, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you have to pay every month?
No, it's a one-time fee. It's like $10.
Oh, interesting.
I believe. Yeah, and then you get access to the members' areas and all the members' equipment, and you get to circumvent all of the waiting and refreshing a page. There'll still be ads though, so they'll still earn money.
Well, okay, I see. So, there will still be ads, right? So well, it's logical in a way because they have to get the money for the establishment of the servers and continuous technical observance of the servers, because otherwise they will just crash and no one will be able to play the game. It's just that they try to go around it and we don't force you to pay money, but we'll bombard you with advertisements so much that you will forget what your real name is.
And the worst part is around half of the ads are membership ads. Like, if you become a member, you can get this armor and this sword and this staff and this bow and
and many other things which will consume your monthly income like there's no tomorrow.
Exactly. So that's another way. I would guess it's a bad example of how to set up a free-to-play game with membership superiority. If you're a member, you have certain advantages over those who play for free. That's another way to set it up. That's not necessarily good.
Well, it really depends. I mean, if many people play the game, they don't even have to make the page full of advertisements. You can make one page with just, even the front page. For instance, Battle.net was for a lot of time used this advertisement strategy in which you would be playing the game for free once you paid for the disc. And after that, you would just see occasional advertisements on the front page as you would browse the chat groups or servers, and that's how they generate revenue, and it was fine. It just worked out quite well for them. But it's probably because a lot of players were playing the game and they would just join a lot of games. It was essentially boiled down to the quality of the game, because this front page of the Battle.net they would see very often, and therefore they would see those advertisements as well. But yeah, it depends. Each games try to approach it differently because of the different style of the game. Like, for instance, it wouldn't be logical to have billboards with Coca-Cola advertisements in the fantasy game. But it's more than logical to have the same thing in the Need for Speed Underground, for instance. Just because it is, right? Just because it's a real game about real megapolis, and it's easy to add these things. They will not look out of place. But if you go, like, Say in World of Warcraft, you go to Orgrimmar, and what happens? You see a billboard which says, "Buy our sneakers. The Nikes are the best," and you're like, "Holy God, what, what Nikes? It's a fantasy game. What?"
It's the new drone technology.
Yeah, just imagine.
Footwear that you use outside.
Yeah, assembled by children goblins, right? And there's a huge issue about it.
Yeah, it's all the lava. You get so sweaty feet. We need to make sure there is air coming towards those. And this discussion is getting quite disgusting. So let's move on.
Yeah, oh yeah, I would anyway. And we have the gameplay online of a game that was originally designed or plays better as a single player. Like, how does experience change and how does it vary in positive and a negative way, and how do the games actually combat that, or will some games will ever be able to overcome that? Because some of them seem that they can't. Like, I'll just continue. I'll give the word to you right now.
Yeah, if you've noticed in this podcast and in the last podcast, I've been praising the Dark Souls and Demon Souls series, the Souls series in general.
Good God.
No, but this time I will complain about it. I will actually complain. Believe it or not.
I believe in God now. Okay.
Essentially, there's the you play as a single player, and then there's the online component, yada yada yada. They can invade you, you can invade them. There's dedicated PvP. However, there is an armor system in the game. You know, you can wear heavy armor and you'll be unable to roll, so you'll have to take hits in order to survive. Or you can wear light armor or medium armor and you'll be able to roll. You'll be able to be nimbly-wimbly, a ninja. You can dodge and become a fragile speedster instead of a mighty glacier. You can dodge it instead of taking them. Problem when you add in the online component is that it highly favors being mobile. And there is this ring that gives you more equip weight, so you can essentially flip around. You'll be able to run very, very fast. Everyone's using it because you can move fast. You can dodge all the hits. Add into that, there's fast weapons, and they have special properties which are good to use. Add in them, then you can come in, hit them a few times, come away before they can swing their slow weapon that is very powerful in single player, and they can do nothing. I mean, if you know how to roll properly, you can even avoid their swings. So the game is balanced fine for single player. You can take the hits, you won't even be staggered by the enemies. But as soon as you add in the multiplayer component, no, then it doesn't work anymore.
I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
And then my question is, if there is this online component, do we balance for multiplayer so everything is viable, but then it'll be difficult to balance the single player because that's an AI. It won't be as skilled or as intelligent as a human player will be, or how do we go about balancing that? It's really
So there's essentially different approaches from my observation to balancing it. The slacky companies or companies that do not have money or finances to actually work on the games too long, they do that in a following fashion. They just make the game for a single player and they kind of put in the multiplayer. So you're like, the game is good. Yeah, I'll go play multiplayer. You open up the multiplayer and you're like, good God, you are an abomination. You shouldn't have existed. Why are you here? And multiplayer is like, so no one complains. I'm here to satisfy you. And you're like, good God, I want to kill you right now. And other companies that try to actually balance the multiplayer as well. And there's two different approaches. Else you balance, as you said, right away to the multiplayer. Else you actually make two different games.
Yeah. If you look at, for instance, Modern Warfare, the newer games, Black Ops, I believe, I've heard that they have horrible single-player campaigns and people only buy them for the multiplayer. So that's that's an example of a game balanced for the multiplayer while sacrificing the single-player component,
Well, it's not sacrificed. It's just annoying to see the same shit over and over again for several years now. There's no innovation in single-player as such, okay? Take it, Activision. I mean, that's what it is. Of course, first Call of Duty 4... I remember watching the trailer. There's Captain Price in a helicopter and you with those SAS guys, right, from the Great Britain, and wow, it was unbelievable. Everyone was like, oh my God, the action movie on your screen, so exciting, blabbery blabbery booby. Everyone loves it, and then what happens? We have Call of Duty 5. World at War, we have Call of Duty 6, Modern Warfare 2, we have Call of Duty 7, Black Ops, Call of Duty 8, Modern Warfare 3, Call of Duty 9, Black Ops 2, Call of Duty 10, I don't know, Red Ops, Call of Duty 11, Prehistoric Warfare, Call of Duty, I don't know, and it continues in the same fashion. And because all of this, the things they try to show, essentially even mobs don't change in a single player. They feel exactly the same way, and in some cases they deteriorate. Their weapons don't change too much, the maps don't change too much, and you feel like, interesting. I have to spend another $50 on the same product with minor tweaks and changes. Of course, multiplayer is not the case. Multiplayer changes, not dramatically in many cases, but multiplayer is solid just because of the game's engine, because of the way the hit registrates. I'm talking about games before Modern Warfare 3. Modern Warfare 3 has horrible hit rate registration. And the balancing things, they just balance it towards multiplayer, but they essentially make two games because the balance in single player and multiplayer is not the same. For instance, in some cases, guns have different ammunition. Some guns that are present in single player are not present in multiplayer, and etc., right? And it's different things. In case of StarCraft, it's the same example. StarCraft single player and multiplayer are two different games. Like, for instance, right now we have patch 1. Don't bash me for it, I don't remember, 1.4.2, I think, and everything changed. Tanks have lower splash, Thors have lower splash, Banshees do not have splash anymore, we have different this, different that, additional cost, improved accuracy, improved range, decreased cost of upgrades. We have so many changes, it's entirely new game. Single player, no change. It was there the same way it was there from the first place. Because if you patch the game for multiplayer, it's not the same as to patch it to the single player. And the changes can be dramatic, okay? And you can actually screw up the game pretty badly. So, yes, in case of Dark Souls, in case of your example, I say they should have balanced the game to the multiplayer separately from the single player. Because the same techniques just will not work.
Yeah, that is one way to go. But balancing the multiplayer separately would take a lot of development time because then they would have to fine tune all the weapons and make up another system just for that. That would be quite taxing and would be a lot of work and a lot of programming, which costs money.
Okay, so say we want to save up money. Say we want to make a game that will be both appropriate for a single player and multiplayer. So how do we go about it? Then there are two possible solutions, in my opinion. Three, actually. First, focus solely on single player and make it great. Forget about multiplayer. Just cut it out and apologize. Second, cut out the single player and make it completely multiplayer. I'll have example for both. The first example is the how is it called? Warhammer 40,000 Online. Now it's a single player game. They're making it as a single player game. They completely cut off the multiplayer as it was meant to be at first place. Now the second example is completely cut off the single player and make a multiplayer game. Examples would be, good God, I don't even know the example. Example would be, well, let's say Fury. That was a completely MMO based on PvP. You would PvP players. You would fight against other players, and that's the only thing you would do. There would be no PvE as such. They've cut off essentially the PvE component of the game to make a great PvP, and they kind of did. I was satisfied with the game. Too bad it fallen apart. But many of them did. And the third way is to actually make both at the same time, but focus on what's more important. Like, do not just skip parts, but think how will the game play in multiplayer and single player, and what are the differences? So, for instance, what you said, artificial intelligence will not use the weaponry the same way, right? It will not fire the same way, it will not block and dodge the same way. So, try to model your AI with by your observations of the players. Or try to give additional features to AI that player will not have. Make more enemies, or try to give them additional tactical advantages and give them tactical decisions which players will not have in multiplayer. So this way you will actually spend less time, but try to fine-tune both at the same time with focusing your attention to only one, to the multiplayer essentially, but trying to adjust your artificial intelligence and the game mechanics to the single player as well.
Yeah, that is probably the best way to go about it. If you, again, Dark Souls, the big gimmick is that there's a lot of bosses and a lot of hard mini bosses all around the world, which you will not see in multiplayer because then there's the human players. But each of them require different tactics. Like, for instance, minor spoiler, it's not really all that important. There's one of the final bosses that's the Grave Lord Nito. His boss fight, he has a lot of minions. And conventionally, you cannot kill off the minions. You hit them, they fall apart, they're skeletons. Give them 10, 20 seconds, then they rebuild themselves, and they're coming after you and fight you alongside the boss. The boss himself, he swings rather slowly, but when he has all of his minions to distract you, he becomes very hard.
Difficult to dodge his attacks, right? Essentially because you're tied in combat.
Yeah, exactly. So he has his powerful attacks, which are easy to dodge, and then there's all of his small, annoying buggers who are basically circle-rushing you all of the time. So it's kind of like, yeah, that's one way to balance the difficulty for a single-player game.
I see what you're saying. So, of course, it can be tricky. But then again, not that I ever played Dark Souls, but Dark Souls, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the game that's coming out in June for computer, right?
Yeah, it's coming out June, August. Then
Yeah,
there's
what
the
the
computer
hell?
version.
Yeah, cut out the multiplayer and enjoy the great single player. What the hell? Who plays such games for multiplayer? With all due respect, I do understand some of you will be like, "Oh, Mike, you're an asshole. I grew up on this game." Oh, okay, I understand you. But what I'm saying is, Dark Souls, by no means have I ever seen it in the cyber sports arena. Okay? By no means can you expect from such games to be balanced so perfectly, right? I mean, I remember this game, what was it called? The Majesty 2. Oh, what a pile of shit. Excuse me, it was from Russian development team. Oh goodness, they never patched the game, and it had multiplayer. And in multiplayer, you would go and you'd be like, "Oh, I know what I'm gonna do." And this thing is called elves. Yeah, those buggers with bows and shit, which are unkillable by anything in the game. No entity kills them. They kill end game units just as well as they kill the beginning units. And you're like, interesting balance ideas you have, Russian guys. Interesting, indeed. What a different multiplayer. The multiplayer would boil down to who first gets the elves. And yes, and pray that your elves do not die first. You're like, interesting. But then again, this game never intended to be competitively multiplayer-ish. It's like Heroes of Might and Magic 6. Like, no matter how much you struggle to make a competitive multiplayer out of it, you will not. Why?
Yeah.
You have too many races, and you have too great of a gameplay. The match can last easily 20 hours. Huh? Excuse me, who will competitively play that?
Yeah, mine are gripe because I grew up on Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the third game, and the sixth is supposed to be a re-envision of that, but yeah, I'm sad. It's
Did
not.
you actually play a lot of multiplayer in the third one?
I play it with my friends around here. Actually, we don't play it competitively, meaning we don't follow the min-max strategies for each city because that would make me the necromancers would win since they could turn any unit into skeletons for them.
yes.
So they could basically circle the same castle over and over again, and they would just get a larger and larger army of skeletons. Then, while the other person may have 100 end mobs, and while we have an army of 1 billion skeletons, we're winning. Ha ha ha.
We kind of have a minor advantage over you, right?
Yeah,
But again,
especially in the
how much
larger
was-
maps.
Yes. But again, how many? Oh, let me rephrase the question. How many games did you play till the end?
Who were balanced for single player, who were balanced for multiplayer.
No, I'm saying how many? Excuse me, I didn't put the question correctly. How many maps in Heroes of Might and Magic 3 did you play till the end?
I actually tried out the multiplayer component. I played none of those to the end since it's basically as soon as one person gets the upper hand, there's no turning it around. So it's kind of like, Alt F4. Ha ha.
Yeah, like, you know what? Screw you. You're an ass. You're not getting a win from me, right?
Yeah, especially because on the large maps or the very large maps, it's a win. You're just sitting there. Okay, now in 4 hours you'll have beaten me. And Mike, do I have that kind of patience? No, I do not have that kind of patience.
Well, that's the thing, it's different. I mean, for instance, in many games we have different ideas for multiplayer compared to single player. Like, single player can be all engulfing, but for instance, the way Total War went around it, that was the only way for them to go around it, and they did it, right? The multiplayer is fighting the other player in an open field in a battle that will last like 20 minutes. That's it. Not more than this. Because if you ask players to build their country, to expand the territories, it will take like forever and no one will actually play the game. The same problem with Heroes of Might and Magic. Okay? You had to be a hardcore player just to actually play a simple match of it. And you would not... I actually played till the end like 3 matches of Heroes of Might and Magic 3, right? And I played this game for a while. But it's a single-player game, It has multiplayer, but it might as well couldn't even exist. I mean, they didn't spend too much time balancing it. There's a lot of things to fine-tune and change, but I mean, it was a single-player game from the start. What do you want, right? It's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and while the story component isn't great, it's a game from 1999. If you're expecting a story, you'll be disappointed, to say the least. But the point is, if you're playing single player with the AI on the proper difficulty, because the developers themselves, they have basically said on the hardest difficulty, the enemy has infinite resources, they get spawns that are better than yours, and they have no nerfs whatsoever. They can see everything on the map, but you can't. So you cannot win at the hardest difficulty. So if you play on a proper difficulty like normal, where everything's even, then it can be quite fun against the computer because it's predictable.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
in some ways. So in that way, you can play every castle and be successful. And still get a good fight out of it, and you may even lose in the final siege, which is interesting in the single player campaign. On the single player maps.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. And then again, I would argue, remove the multiplayer and just focus on the game. I mean, such multiplayer is the same as to say, we kind of have it, but it kind of sucks. Like, it's like saying, oh, imagine we're sharing a room with you. And you come to the kitchen and I'm like, hey, Mike, I cooked some food. Do you want to eat some macaroni? And you're like, macaroni? Mike, you're annoying. Again? I'm like, yeah, what's bad about macaroni? I eat them for 2 weeks straight now for breakfast, dinner, and, supper. And you're like, Mike, and I'm like, okay, there's also soup. It's rotten. Would you like some? You're like, what? what kind of choice is that? It's the same thing with the multiplayer, right? They're like, oh, we have a multiplayer, but it's rotten. So what's the point to have it? Throw it away. No, I want to have it. Maybe someone will eat it. Right?
Yeah, on the other hand, there are games with a dedicated multiplayer which is pretty damn great, and then there's the single player campaign where you're just like, move along, ignore it. So or with the next Modern Warfare game, just cut out the single player campaign. There's no need to copy and paste it all over again. Just focus on the multiplayer.
Oh, don't worry, they're gonna have another epic experience. Oh my god, the keys are stolen. All of our modern weaponry are against us. What are we gonna do now? Terrorists. We have to stop them. Russians again. I'm sure there's gonna be Russian again. No, in Black Ops probably not. I think in the first game there was no Russians. No, at least not so many. There were Cuban guys though. I'm sure this time we're gonna have Venezuelan guys. You heard that? What's his name? Chavez, you heard that? We're gonna have Venezuela in the new Call of Duty game. Well, anyway, yeah. I mean, it's what it is. It's a multiplayer game with an existence of single player, which is always the same, and you're like, interesting, fuck that. I'll go and lock new guns instead.
Yeah. So I believe we had one last topic we wanted to talk about as well before we run out of time.
Yes, a video. We will never, my friend, we will never run out of time. For we have plenty.
But we will have to amuse the viewers as well, so they stay for the entirety of the video.
God damn it! That's why I hired scriptwriters to make it funny. I think
what screenwriters?
We shouldn't talk about it. It should, it should be subtle change. I mean, everyone has. I also want to have some. I mean, politicians have. How do you call them? Economists have. PR persons have. They hire PR people. That's what I'm doing now.
You're not doing a very great job of it, though. Sorry to say it.
Have to, probably investment of €10 was not enough to hire a good one. Damn it to hell.
Maybe you can make sure he stays awake for the entire duration of the screenwriting next time around.
Yeah, but then again, he's gonna make noises. And the only noise I can tolerate on my podcast is this. And it's the sound of my pen closing and opening. Okay, the next and last but not least topic is the video presentation of Kara, which is not necessarily new, not the newest, but it's kind of fresh. And it was a demonstration from a company, Quantic Dream, which in 2005 released the awesome Fahrenheit. And then in 2009, 2010, it released for PlayStation 2, or PlayStation 3 already was present, PlayStation 3, it released the magnificent Heavy Rain, which I never played because they're assholes and they don't want to port it to the computer. And now they present Kara, which is not a game, but it's actually a demonstration of their new engine, which runs perfectly on PlayStation 3, but gives very impressive picture. And I don't know how they do that with this crappy technology. And essentially what I would like to discuss is the future of this genre, the impressions about these, let's say, a presentation of an engine. I've never seen such a... Well, let's start off. I've just watched the video of Unreal Engine 3, right? What's in Unreal Engine 3, the presentation of this engine? Well, have you ever seen it? What's the presentation is?
The Unreal 3 engine? No, I haven't. I believe I haven't seen that one, actually.
Let me give you in short. There's this mighty guy with a cigarette. He goes in the city, right? And there's like 4 soldiers, and they're torturing a woman. They're about to kill her, and he's like, my cigarette, and he's like throwing a cigarette at one of the soldiers, kills all of them, right? And there's no mouth movement in the whole clip. There's no mouths. No one who talks have a mouth. The main hero has a mouth, but he doesn't talk. He never opens his mouth. He's just fighting and stuff. And whomever talks back to him else has a helmet, else is a robot. Okay? So it's kind of a cheaty way to say we have no facial animation. Shut up.
Yeah, but facial animation is one of the things that are hard to pull off, and well, one of my biggest gripes with games, actually, if you look at BioWare is a great example. Actually, if you look at the Dragon Age games or the Mass Effect games, everyone kind of has this stiff face. It's like hello there, Warden, Hawk, Commander Shepard, not Head. How are you today, Wave Hand?
Slash import your stupid name here.
Yeah, and no one is calling my Hawk Sassy Hawk, which is my name for him because I'm quite inventive when I'm playing Snarky.
I see. So like a traveler or chosen one or a hero, right? They call you hero when you have a freaking name. You're like with your girlfriend, right, in this game, and she's like, "You are my hero. I have a name, goddammit."
Yeah. Oh, right, your surname. Hello there, Warden. I love you, Warden. I have a name. You don't know my name.
Like you go home, right, and your wife is like, "Hey, hey, Freeman. I cooked you dinner. Hey, dear. I also like you."
Do you know what my name is? Do you like the weather today, dear?
Change the topic, right?
Yeah, exactly. The point with that engine is, or their engines, they have separate engines for whatever they're doing, is that the face screams Uncanny Valley. You know, it's human enough to recognize it's a human, but the fact that it looks human, but the animation is stiff, it's wonky, it can really put people off. When you look at it and say, nope, not real, that's scary, nope, back away, beep, 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 you know. There's this, I mean, if you look something, you know it's not human, like Pixar's, I believe, Wall-E, you know, it's not human at all, but you slap on a few eyes, make it adorable, give it a hand, and everyone's like, that's adorable. We know it's not human, but we've given it 1 or 2 human characteristics.
Yeah, it's beautiful eyes, and you know.
Yeah, but and that is also a game where you have games with artistic versus realistic. If you have something that is artistic, it's easy to make people emote with it because, well, you know, we know it's not human, but we've given it enough human characteristics to make us care about them. Now we can empathize with them because, oh, look, he has big cute eyes, or oh, look, he has big chubby hands, or whatever it is. They're making us empathize with the character because there is 1 or 2 human characteristics that stand out because the object isn't human. But when the object becomes human-like and it becomes very human, everything that isn't human, like stiff animations or staring eyes or the fact that they're not blinking or a smile that's kind of a slasher smile of sorts, that stands out because that's not human. No, I recognize that isn't human. No, get away.
But
nightmares.
Again, in case of Mass Effect 3 is one of the games that encompasses, one of the few games, I might add, that encompasses in itself both sophisticated gameplay value, right, and at the same time sophisticated storytelling, right? And it might not look the most realistic game on Earth, right, but it's what it is. It's like a cinematic experience of a game, but it's not quite an interactive story yet, where, like, if you want to have such sophisticated animation, I mean, right now, if you go ahead and play or watch videos about Fahrenheit, you will be surprised how actually they came to the creation of animation, how much work were put into that. And although it does not look very realistic right now, Fahrenheit could easily play with a handicap against games that came out in 2007, 2008 and still win. Because of the way it was presented, because of the animation, and it was completely different genre, right? And the Heavy Rain is the same, it's very different genre, and it's the only company, Quantic Dream, that actually makes such games. And now they present Kara, which is PS3 exclusive, essentially presentation of the engine for a PS3, and because they probably plan to do something else, I'm like, guys, you're traitors, you all should be shot in the backside of your head. And although I do respect what they did, right? I just don't think I don't understand why do they want to struggle so heavily with the PS3 technology today, which is dating daily. Okay, it's already very old. It's weak. Xbox 360 is weak. PS3 is weak right now, and they still although they make masterful work in updating these new engines, creating new engines that actually fit for this hardware, they could have done so much more on computer, right? And the car is a living example. Look how beautiful it is, right? If you, excuse me, it's my pen, nerdy. If you look at the way it's presented on a PS3, right, and you see how beautiful it is, the only poor part in the trailer is actually texture work. That's the only thing that sucks. Everything else is like, oh my goodness, outstanding.
Yeah, but the majority consumer base, they are not PC gamers, and even those who are PC gamers, they don't have a high-end PC. They have a middle-end PC that is comparable to consoles. And
No, not anymore.
Yeah, but as we said in the last episode, if that's where the money are, that's where the developers go. Because my wallet shall be full.
Well, it really does depend. I mean, recently, you would be correct a year ago, not anymore. First of all, because computers are so much further ahead, right? Today, low-end computer is much stronger than PS3 or Xbox 360. There's no comparison. The amount of storage on them presented, I'm talking about the space in gigabytes and terabytes, is much more, again. Second advantage. Third advantage is there are so many ways to digitally distribute your copies that you actually do not have to lift a finger to print any copies whatsoever. Whereas on consoles, you have to. It's obligatory. Majority of times, excluding Xbox Marketplace. But again, Xbox Marketplace has specific products and it's tied up to these things and blah, blah, blah. Whereas on PC market, there's so many different digital distributors and there's a lot of competition. So the consumer base can always find himself a better price, right? You always can find something better. And we talk about Amazon, we talk about various systems that are specific to country. There are several in Russia, several in Poland, and in other countries as well. They just sell out the keys, without actual box. And what I'm saying is, and fourth competitive advantage, there is Kickstarter in the United States. And any company that wants to make a game, especially for computer, because we are PC hardcore geeks and we are ready to support stuff we love, they actually get a lot of money raised in order to make the games they wanted to make. And the majority of the games I've seen being supported are for PC, okay? Some of them became cross-platform, but they were intended for PC. Because PC does not have these restrictions, PC is easier to adapt. Again, there's a lot of hardware to work with, but it's just generally much stronger than the console, and it's not so much work that has to be done.
Yeah, and there's also the whole, as you mentioned before, physical distribution. If you're a new developer, an indie developer, if we can call it that, we probably can,
of course.
Then the whole physical distribution, okay, you have to ship your game to all of these countries and it'll cost this much. They'll be saying, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, boy, you cannot afford a sandwich. What distribution? What are you talking about? You want to print millions of games when you have a flat to pay for and you don't have enough money to do that? Yeah. Right. Good luck with that.
But again, what we're talking about, games for PS3 and Xbox 360 and whatever the next generation of consoles will be called, maybe Xbox 720 or whatever it is, they currently have very impressive looking games for Heavy Rain or a newer one, LA Noire. They have all of this fancy facial animation. Imagine how much better that could be on let's say a high-end PC or the next generation of consoles.
There's no need to imagine. There's a lot of videos on YouTube available in 1080p, I might add, not 360. Good lord.
But actually the 360 has 720p to work with, so it's like very advanced. 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, that's the thing. In the beginning of their life cycle, they were very advanced, right? For the same money, you could not afford a good computer. But as they date and the companies do not create a better hardware, create better consoles, it has to change, okay? The more they dick around with it, the more potential customers they lose. Because many people start selling their consoles or just throwing them away and buying low-end computers because they're still better. I mean, it doesn't get easier than that. It doesn't get any worse than that, as a matter of fact, also.
Yeah, well, the only thing that's still in favor of the 720p option is basically most people with their internet connection, especially in America that has a lot of rural areas where a majority of the consumer base is, if you have to upload or download 1080p, if you try to if you can test this at home right now, go look at a video, look for 1080p and try to set it at 1080p and watch how slow the bar progresses. Unless you have an excellent upload-download ratio, then that'll take a while. As opposed to 720p will be done in a flash.
Well, I mean, even I have 1 megabyte per second download here in Greece. It says something, guys. I have less than 70 kilobytes upload, okay? But I have good download. I mean, majority of the countries now have good download speed. And
Yeah.
it's not a big difficulty, especially in United States. Excuse me, one of the most solid internet for the country that is not South Korea. And for any of you who doesn't know, South Korea is South Korea. Look up the internet speeds of South Korea and you will understand what I'm talking about. It's like they're aliens, okay? As simple as that. God, I wish I was South Korean.
No, you don't actually. Then you'd be playing StarCraft all day.
Yeah, but they have the best internet on Earth, okay, at this point in time.
What? 100 megabyte a second is the whole lot, is it?
Yeah, right. What can you use it for, right? How can it be useful? And they only play StarCraft. God, guys, you're annoying.
We could use it to upload videos or download videos on YouTube, or at least stream them or stream gameplay. And well, we have a StarCraft tournament. Another one, yeah. You know, it's Monday again. You know, we have to.
They have. Let me calculate it. They have. Let's say a minimum. No, it's not what they have. They have. Let's assume 6,000 divided by 70. They have 85 times faster upload speed than I do. Good God, I wish I was in South Korea. Oh my goodness, I would be so competitive on YouTube. I would spit out the videos faster than you can actually say, good Lord, I have no time to watch them.
Yeah, they wake up and there's suddenly 100 videos in their inbox. Like, does he sleep?
I wouldn't even make special videos then for 100, for 200. I wouldn't care. I would like only make special videos for 1 millionth episode. Special.
And then you have like one viewer who's watched all of it. He's like there, can I sleep now? No.
There's 6 more. It's like, fine. By all that it's holy.
Yeah. At that point, you'll probably have replaced all of your blood with pure caffeine at a point, which is powder, so it may have to be distilled into a liquid. But still, point stands.
Okay, in short, it's very sad that the old technology, agent console technology, does not get replaced. But it's very exciting to see these new developments in the interactive storytelling from the Quantic Dream. And Quantic Dream, if you're listening to this podcast, and by any chance, 300 years after this moment I became popular, make the goddamn port to PC, okay? We are ready to buy your game. I'm just saying, I will buy it 100%. Buy one for myself, one for Granny, and one for sister. Good stuff.
Yeah.
And of course,
let's hope for the best with that.
Yeah, well, it's not gonna happen. I just hope, in my deepest, hopes, but it's not gonna happen. Dark Souls gets ported to the computer, but Quantic Dream is like, oh no, we'll work only with PlayStation 3 exclusives, and yeah. Okay, anyway. We thank you so much for watching. It has been the QuickSaveFM podcast with your usual company now for 2 episodes. Usual company in the face of me, Mike Pushkin, and in the face of Coffeeholic93, another Mike. Also, Mike, we're double mic attack essentially, bombarding your ears with a lot of useful and not so information.
At one point, this double mic thing will be confusing. Maybe we can add a third one to make it even more alienating.
If we have 3 mics, we have to have 4 mics in this podcast. Like, Mike, is your mic fine? Like, what are you talking about? I'm talking about your microphone, Mike.
What is Mike's opinion? What mic? That mic.
Mike. We have to enumerate each other. We'll be like, CD17, CD16. You will be Mike 2. I'll be Mike 17, right? There's going to be another one, Mike -3, and
Yeah, that would probably just alienate everyone. They'd be like, nope, not watching that. My brain will begin to hurt.
What can be better about the podcast? Sad thing, there was no big questions, essentially. There was not anything big to answer. So, yeah, still open for your questions. If you have any interesting questions for us to answer in the future episode of this podcast, please go ahead and leave your questions in comments. We will go ahead and take a look at them and answer the best of them. At least like 1, 2. I would expect to answer 3 if they're up to 3 questions, up to 3 great questions. Go ahead and leave your great questions, and I'll take a look at them. Thank you so much for watching. It was great pleasure talking with you, Mike, today, giving all this interesting and not so exciting information, or just really weird information and specific to you, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Have a pleasant day.
Have a greatest day, subscribe, and have fun. Record. I have to stop taking those goddamn medicines and take some coffee. Good. We will be live in Excuse me. Oh, how good I am, I mean. Yeah, it's totally not luck that I spawned behind him. For Demon Hunter, agility is more important than strength because it also adds you the damage. The outright influences your damage, and it's very important. Now, because of that, you would always like to have much higher agility than anything else.